All right, happy Monday, Inspire Beauty. So a couple announcements to kick off. Number one, Take Action Challenge has officially crossed the halfway point. And so far we have seen, I keep looking every week to see when more of our teammates are going to have their names. Don't stop adding your stuff into your digital tracker every day, but remember that every invite into a BOD group counts as well. Okay, so how can you get creative? I've been hearing from a lot of coaches in the network that they're literally just opening up a free community in BOD, right? Free community for the month of May, for the month of June, free. Maybe every Monday you post something in there for the week so that people can check in or whatever. Nothing crazy, not a group that you're just pouring like all of your heart and soul into, but a space for anyone to join. They don't have to have Beachbody. They can have Beachbody. But guess who you can add to those groups? Anyone whose email you have, right? Because that's all you need to add somebody to a BOD group. And so a lot of coaches have been talking about this strategy for growing their free community, essentially in BOD groups, by simply just sending the email invite to every stinking person that they have an email for, right? Basically spamming their email accounts and letting them know, hey, you're invited to this free community. I've opened it up. I've opened up my doors. So get creative. How are you taking action? It's a take action challenge, right? So how are you taking action to move the needle forward in your business for the next 6 weeks, right? I don't 100% believe they have to. I don't think they do. I think it's just based on invites. I'm not 100% sure though. Check the FAQs before you agree with me on that one or disagree. But yeah, FAQs should lay that out perfectly for you. But I believe that it's just literally how many invites you're sending to your BOD group. Speaking of taking action, every Tuesday, you guys, we have a team-wide guided action hour. And last week I was chatting with Leah and Kristen after our weekly action hour. And I found it curious that our new coaches are the ones showing up. And I love that. I really love that. That's so amazing because they are the future of our team. And I wonder where some of our veteran coaches are. On Tuesdays, I crave seeing you guys through a screen to work my business. Even though I've worked my business all day, I still crave seeing you guys because number one, it's just better together. It's more fun to do my tracker with you guys. Number two, it keeps me accountable to the things that maybe I let slip through the cracks. I know that for me, so I know that for you. And number three, there is street cred out there. When I can show other people what we're doing together on a Tuesday night as business owners, there's credibility because it's not just Brittany on Instagram stories talking about working my business, but I'm showing who else is doing that with me. And I crave that, especially since this business is really through a screen. For me, it's important. Any chance I can get to show the greater community, I am going to latch onto. So I'm calling y'all out. If on Tuesdays, you have been letting that slip through the cracks and allowing other things to occupy that space, come back. We've been keeping your seat warm. That's all I'm going to say, right? That's my whole thing. Come back. We've been keeping your seat warm, whether it's your self-care, whether it's working your business on a Tuesday, whether it's a Monday night team training, book club, win the morning Zoom. Guys, there's so many ways to plug into this community. It's just redonkulous, quite frankly. Like it's silly if you don't find a way to plug in because there's so much out there, right? And we can also ensure that our coaches know that that's available to them too. Okay, so bring a friend. Last thing for me is just over 3 weeks, okay? 3 weeks from this Friday is cutoff for Summit tickets. Now, Summit is an annual event. If you've never attended it in the flesh or even virtually with us last year, it's an annual event that Beachbody puts on, and you can attend it for 100% free of charge. You just need to go register on coachsummit.com. Okay. Everybody, by the way, disclaimer, needs to register. Even if you've registered through me, you also need to register through Beachbody too for Coach Summit. Okay. Make sure that we're taking care of that. But I am hosting a kind of extension of Summit, and that's where the ticket price comes in. But there's 2 tiers. There's the tier to join us live in Dallas. Okay. And that ticket's coming with all the bells and whistles that you could ever want and need and don't even know you want and need to make an amazing Summit experience. Truthfully, y'all, you haven't experienced this team until you are face-to-face hugging a perfect stranger that you feel like they're your BFF. you have not experienced this team until you've worked out live with a trainer. Like you just haven't. There's nothing like it. And so if you've never been to a summit, make this the summer that you attend one, right? And if for some reason you truly cannot attend in Dallas with us, there is an option for a $30 ticket that's virtual. That $30 ticket is going to give you your swag bag mailed to your house, and it's going to give you a virtual link to join us for workouts throughout the week and to join us for all the trainings that happen throughout the week. Okay, so it's like kind of being with us, even though you can't really be with us. Here's the deal. I am literally in the works right now making a tank top for Summit that you can't get if you don't come, and you can't get if you don't do the virtual ticket. So you can come, or you can physically come and you get that tank top as part of your ticket. That right there should be like, okay, I think I'll just sign up at least for the virtual, but you only have 3 weeks left to do that. And then no more, because I have to be able to put in the orders for things as well as get it mailed to me and mailed out to you guys and all that good stuff. Okay, but 3 weeks. So if you've been sitting on that choice, you need to really decide sooner than later. Guys, that's it from me. I'm going to pass the mic tonight to, yes, thank you, Chelsea. I'm going to pass the mic to my dear friend, Brooke. Okay, you guys, she's been a coach for 6 years. So number one, you can already tell that she's got something of value to offer us tonight simply because of longevity, right? There's some secret to longevity in this business. She was a kindergarten teacher, now a full-time Beachbody coach. So if you're one of our teacher people out there looking at this and like aspiring to maybe one day shift over to full-time stay-at-home mom or whatever it is for you, that is Brookes' story. She's a mama to 2. She does this business full-time with a 1.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. Bless your stinking heart. Happy Mother's Day, by the way. She's an SC legend, which means she's hit Success Club for 2 years in a row at a minimum of helping at least 3 people a month consecutively. And her team is a 5-star team, which is pretty stinking cool, because what that means to me is her leadership is duplicating and other people are latching on to the tools and the tips and tricks she's going to share with us tonight. So you guys, pens, paper, pencils, hearts open, lean in. I know she's got a word for us. Brooke, I'm going to mute myself. It's all you, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you actually make me the host so I can share my screen? Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me and for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedule to be here and listen. I am going to share my screen. And this is the way I do Canva, because if I do it in present mode, then I can't see myself, I can't see you, and I don't like it. So I just enlarge it here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. It really plays a big part into this topic and kind of how I've come to be at this place in my business. But of course, too, I want you to kind of know who I am and what I'm, the backstory behind what my story and what I have to share with you tonight. I like to talk about getting over the fear of inviting. That is because I feel strongly that my back had always been up against the wall. I never really had the opportunity or the time to waste worrying about what, Sally Sue on the other end of my cell phone is thinking. So backing up to, I don't know, I've been coached for 6 years. So a little bit more beyond that. My husband and I, my husband now, but we were dating at the time. It's kind of ironic. We were doing P90X, the original P90X. There was no Beachbody on Demand. You paid like $200 to get 1 bag of Shakeology and the DVDs, and there was no nutrition. I mean, there's a nutrition, but it wasn't like anything we have now. Like each program had its own. So you had to switch from program to program, and it was just a headache, but we were super committed. And we did it. We finished the whole thing. I remember being like measuring things to a T, and we got the absolute best results possible. Fast forward. So that was in the spring of, I don't know, some year. And then over the summer, I went to school for teaching for 7 years. So over that summer, I was, applying to jobs, and I received my first job, and I was just super excited, especially because teacher jobs are really, few and far between. but also I had just graduated and, I was really excited. I was really excited to be able to put what I had learned into practice. I grew up knowing that I was going to be a teacher. I always loved working with little kids. Every summer job or after school thing, like babysitting, nannying, summer camps, like I did all those daycare, like that was my jam. Every time I had a job, it had something to do with kids. So I knew I was going to be a teacher. It kind of just made sense. It was the next step, right? So I got my first job and I was so excited in everything I do, but especially with teaching, especially being this first year teacher. I put my heart and soul into that job. This is going back now, like 10 plus years, and I look like I'm young anyway. And so I knew, though, especially now I'm on the other end. I have like Brittany said, I have a 5-year-old. So now I'm kind of on that other end of being a parent. My son's going to kindergarten in the fall. And I knew that they were looking at me. They knew I was brand new to the district. They could tell I probably didn't have any experience. I wanted to prove to them that despite being super young and despite being the brand new teacher, like I was going to be the best educator that I could for their child. And so I could at the time, I could put all this time into it. I could put all this energy and this money because, like I had said, my husband and I were just dating at the time. We didn't have a mortgage. We didn't have a family. Like we had our dog and we had rent to pay. You know what I mean? So I could kind of pretend that I had the extra money to go to Lakeshore Learning and buy all the things. And I could come home at 6:30 at night, eat dinner with my husband, and then be back on the couch because I didn't have any kids and I didn't have any other responsibilities. But I've been like that always, and I'm like that with everything that I do. So that didn't surprise me. After a couple years, so I was like the teacher who, I would be there pretty early in the morning. I was usually like the last one to leave. My car was the last one in the parking lot, and then I'd be bringing bags of things to do at home after I ate. So coming home late meant that I was not meal planning and prepping anymore. I wasn't sleeping as much because I was going to bed late and then waking up early to get back to work. And I didn't really care, especially when I'm tired. That's what's tough for me is when I'm tired, I have no desire to work out, even if I wanted to, or to eat correctly, So I was eating whatever my husband had made, which was probably not the healthiest of things, but I didn't care. I was just grateful to eat dinner and kind of do my thing. Or I was eating whatever he had for takeout. So that weight that I had lost, that incredible body that I had earned right before I got this career, it's just so funny that it was Beachbody. And so this job like literally sucked the life out of me. It sucked the life out of me. And for the first couple of years, I didn't care. I was loving it. I still loved this job. Like it was everything that I wanted it to be, even though I had to spend extra time and extra money and extra energy. I didn't care until I think my husband and I got engaged around this time, and I started thinking about the future more. I've always been a planner, but I think maybe getting engaged and it kind of really solidified like, hey, like, let's really think about the future. And I started wondering like, how the hell am I going to make this work? Like I literally have no time to even get an extra hour of sleep or squeeze in a 30-minute workout, never mind caring for another human being. And so, like I had said, I kind of, I put 100% into everything that I do. So for a job, yes. But then I knew, being a mom was also the other non-negotiable. I knew I always wanted to be a mom. And I know that when that happened, I wanted to be there like 150%, like I would any other, job or project or anything that I had. So, in early childhood education, a lot of us are women, a lot of us are moms. And I remember specifically talking to some of my teacher mom friends, and they were like, yeah, basically you kind of half-ass your job and you kind of half-ass being a mom because there's literally no way else to do it. And I like vividly remember I was like, no, like absolutely, that's not what I want to do. So I think in hindsight, I guess I was just thinking that when I was a teacher and then I became a mom, there was just going to be this, like, it was just magically going to happen. Like there was going to be an extra 6 hours in the day, and I was going to be the hands-on mom that I wanted to be. And I was going to be this teacher that I wanted to be. And it was just like rainbows and unicorns, and it was just going to work out perfectly until I started living the teacher life. And then I realized there's no way in hell I can do this to the extent that I want, to the extent that I've been doing, like being present and, going above and beyond. And I don't know if I said it, I was a kindergarten teacher. So there was like lots of prep and projects and, high energy. And so I realized like there was just not gonna, and some people are okay with that, like having that, you know, even balance where you're not really giving your all to anything that you're doing. And that just didn't really sit well with me, especially when it came to my future kids. And so that's when I started paying closer attention to my coach and her posts. And I really feel strongly that the universe kind of puts things in front of us at the time that we're meant to see it. Because probably like many of you, I had known about coaching for a couple of years before I actually said yes. I had known my coach for a while. She actually went to high school with my husband. So we were like Facebook friends. Like I kind of knew her, but not really enough to like message her or anything. And she had invited me a bunch of times and I had said, no, no, no. And then once that kind of light bulb switch happened about like, well, what's the future going to look like? I started paying closer attention to her posts, and basically the life that she was showing me on through her posts on social media was the life that I envisioned for myself in the future. Like her present was what I wanted my future to be. She was home. She had two little boys. She was home with her kids, but she, still had this adult interaction and she was clearly making some good money and she was happy and she was fit. It was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, how do I do that? Like money, home, be in shape. Like I want to do that, especially thinking of like what teaching had done to my fitness regimen, which made it non-existent. So, when I finally dove in, I dove in, and I think of myself as that unicorn. We are all looking for our unicorns. I did what she told me to do. I was coachable. I didn't think twice about things. Like I just did it because, a couple of years later, because I was getting that much closer to possibly, hopefully, maybe having kids in the future. So, so fast forward. So my first year coaching overlapped with my last year of teaching. I didn't know it at the time that was my last year of teaching. I always hoped and wished and wanted it to be, but I wasn't quite sure. So here I am, first year teacher, or first year coach, trying to like get my footing, lay the the foundation of my business, and I'm growing a human. And so I, was waking up early. I was going to bed late because I was just making the time, making it work. I was doing extra things on the weekends. Like I was doing little things that I could to get ahead because, it was busy. And so, what was I just going to say? I just had an idea. I just had a thought. I don't know. Okay. So it was my first year coaching with my last year teaching. And so I was doing the things, and I know people thought I was crazy, but teaching went from being my plan A to like, I just have to do the bare minimum to keep my job while I have Beachbody become my plan A. And so, like I said, I had used to go above and beyond for teaching, and I like any cracks in the day, any little time, like I did what I had to do to keep my job and be a good teacher. But I remember specifically like points of the day that I would work on Beachbody instead. For example, like instead of eating lunch in the teacher's lounge where, people are pretty pessimistic anyway, I vividly remember sitting in my classroom in the dark. I turned off the lights so nobody would know I was in there. And then I would sit in the corner because there was that little clear glass rectangle in the door. And so I didn't want anybody to see me. So I closed the door, shut off the lights, and I would eat lunch like in the corner, and I'd be, eating with one hand and I was on my cell phone with the other hand, doing things that didn't really require a lot of like thought, right? I was strategic about my pockets of time. And so that was the time I was doing things like sending friend requests, answering messages, checking in with my challengers, that sort of thing. Instead of staying until 6 o'clock at night, I stayed until like 4, and then I went home and, did more of what I needed to do. I just found those cracks. I made it work. I didn't have the time. I made the time. Took advantage of traveling, doing my PD, all sorts of little tips and tricks like that. So when my son was born, he was born at the end of April of that year. And I think a lot of teachers, I live in the Northeast, so we go through like pretty much the end of June. So I think a lot of teachers would have taken like May and June, take the summer, go back in September. I took that whole next year off. So I took a 16-month leave of absence. I really hoped I would never be going back, but I couldn't yet justify to my husband, even though they're really supportive, my husband, my parents are even supportive. They had paid for me to go to school for 7 years. Like I couldn't yet justify, because I'd only been a coach for a year, and I was busy doing other things too, that my business just wasn't at a place that I could justify leaving. So I took that whole year off. And here's my son. I'm a first-time mom, exhausted, obviously, had no idea what I was doing in terms of parenthood, but we just wing it, right? And I was doing the best I could to be a first-time mom and continue moving my business forward. And again, I just made the time. I vividly remember my son, he would only nap if he was like on the move. So he had to be in a swing, or I would hold him in our ergo, and I would just do like laps around my kitchen island while he was sleeping and I was on my phone, like sending messages, sending invites, doing friend requests, things like that, just making it work, because I knew the only thing that would have been worse for me personally, and this is just a personal thing, it's just something that I wanted to be able to stay home with. Once I knew I was no longer going to be a teacher, I wanted to be home with my kids and, do this in the kind of cracks of motherhood. And so I just did it again. I was just going to say something and now I forget what I was going to say. So he was, no, going back to it again and again. My brain is fried. It's Monday. Shit. Crap. This is what happens. My brain thinks too fast that my mouth can't like register it all. Okay. So I think what I was going to say was, I know what it was. The only thing that would have been worse going back after those like 4 months, May, June, the summer, would have been to have been home with him for these 16 months, getting a feel of like what it's like to be this stay-at-home part-time coach, full-time mom, job. And so I hustled. And like I said, I just made the time, because I knew for me personally, that's not a position that I ever wanted to be in. I wanted to be in a position where I was in control. So it's kind of funny with control freak, because that's what I call myself. Like I want to be in control of my life, right? Like I didn't want my principal telling me where I had to be and when I had to be there. I didn't ever want to be in a position where I had to go back to work because we either needed it financially or we needed my benefits, right? Working for the state, you get really good benefits. And I just never wanted somebody else to dictate my life, especially when it came to me being a mom and having kids, right? I want to be in the driver's seat. So when he, at the end of that 16 months, I just, my story, I've been home since he's been born. So I didn't go back. I certainly hadn't replaced my income yet, but it was enough to justify like what we'd pay in daycare and gas money and, teacher attire and things like that. So that is a big piece of this, like getting over the fear of inviting, which I kind of said at the beginning. It's like I had my back against the wall, because all of a sudden it went from my kids one day in the future to holy crap, I now have like a ticking time bomb in my belly. Like I only have these 9 or 10 months to make this happen, or else I'm going to be putting this baby in daycare. I'm going to be going back to work. I'm going to be miserable. So I never really had time to kind of, be wishy and washy and think twice about what like Julie from science class in 7th grade is going to think of when I message her on Facebook. All I care about is that I need to help people. And my coach told me, you got to move your business forward. You got to send the invites. You got to change some lives, and you got to, continue to possibly add them to your team and build your team. And, it goes from there. And so that plays a big part of it. The other piece is that I don't know if this was in my bio for you, Brittany, but I'm what I call a dead leg warrior, which means, so we all come into this business. We have a strong leg and a weak leg, a left leg and a right leg. One of them is deemed weak because you're primarily working on that side of your business by yourself. So that side of that leg of your business is built upon your efforts and the efforts of the people who you put there. So it's like 100% you're doing, versus your strong leg is deemed your strong leg because you have everybody from your team. Like you probably have people you don't even know when you log into your account, because you have the whole team helping to build that leg. when I talk about my coach, she's like my adopted coach. So she's like this person's coach. And my initial coach doesn't actually do anything. He's still a coach, which is annoying, but he doesn't do anything. And yeah, that's where he placed me. And so it wasn't until a few months when I started really kind of learning the ins and outs. Like the back office is kind of confusing a little bit for a new coach, and like the sponsorship drill down and the graphical genealogy and all that kind of fun stuff. And so it was a couple months later after I started coaching that I found out that, I don't know how I found out, but I found out that I was on a inside dead leg. So basically all that to say, I've had to build both of my legs. So I don't really have a strong leg. They're pretty equal actually. So I have no help. Like I get help, like emotional help and support, and we run groups together and all that fun stuff, but I have zero volume help, which was hard. And so I was kind of at a crossroads there. I think I was already pregnant when I discovered this, and it was like, well, I have two choices. I can either quit and wait 6 months and sign up again, but I didn't have those 6 months. I had a baby growing in my belly and I wanted to stay home with him. So I could either quit and wait 6 months, or I could get over it, realize that yeah, it's probably going to take a little bit longer, yeah, it's going to suck, it's going to be harder, but it's not impossible and I can do it, and I might as well just put my head down and get to work. So like that time piece, but having my back against the wall was only expanded when I realized that I was on an inside dead leg. So it was like go time. I just didn't have the time to care about what other people were going to think or say. So that goes into getting over the fear of inviting. So I'm going to talk a lot about inviting. I really feel really strongly about this topic. Go over, some of the essential things, why it's important, why it's not scary, how you can do it, reaping the benefits, all that fun stuff. If you guys have any questions, I'm not great about the chat because then you can tell already I have a squirrel brain. But I tell my team all the time, if you have any questions, I would love for you just unmute yourself. This is not like a formal thing. Or you can just, write them down. I'm happy to answer them at the end. So I really feel like inviting is this like 50-50 combo. It's this mindset piece, a lot of what I've kind of already talked about, and then this mechanics piece. And because if you're doing the work, if you're working on your mindset around inviting, you kind of get in that headspace, and that's where PD comes in. I really strongly encourage you to think about when you're choosing personal development, you're choosing personal development that applies to what you're working on in the moment. And so there's that piece. And then there's the mechanics. Like if you're doing the building blocks, I like to think of it as like a building. The mindset is like the foundation. And then there's a couple more levels that, add to the building. And if you're just doing those things day in and day out, for the most part, inviting is just the natural next step. It doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't need to be awkward. It's just the natural next step. So if it's kind of weird and uncomfortable for you, then it likely means that you're probably missing one of the other foundational parts. So, like I said, the mindset is at the bottom, is the foundation of this business. Now, raise your hand. This is not rhetorical. I really want you to raise your hand. Have you ever been nervous to send an invite because you're afraid of what someone will think of you? I tell everybody, if you're not raising your hand right now and I'm looking, you are lying. We have all been there. It's just the nature of this business. Have you ever been afraid because you think that they're going to think you're only trying to sell something, right? We've all been there. You don't want to be salesy. And have you ever been nervous to send an invite because you're afraid of inviting somebody over and over and over, right? We've all been there too. It's funny. I remember specifically, I was doing this call, I don't know, maybe like 4 months ago. And that day, this girl had reached out to me. It must have been some promotion, like some sale I don't even remember, but it was something big that was going on. And she heard about it and she thought of me. And so she messaged me and she said, do you know of this like sale thing that's going on? And it's always just a fun game. I like to kind of look back and see like, convo history and stuff. And I was like, of course, so number one, we haven't talked in a couple of years. We haven't actually talked in a couple of years, but I'm showing up, I'm consistent on her page. And so she heard about this promotion and she came to me. But not only that, I looked back and I had sent her 15 messages, not necessarily just invites, but 15 messages without her answering back once. And then all of a sudden she pops into my inbox wanting to know about this cool promotion. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't pissed off that I had messaged her 15 times. She didn't think I was being salesy. I wasn't annoying. The timing just wasn't right for her. So when she heard about this Beachbody thing, because I'm showing up in her inbox, and so, she's seeing my posts and stuff, the timing was right for her, and I was still here to help her. So it's just, I really feel like you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. This girl was open to hearing what I had to offer and what I had to say. It just, the timing had never been right for her until that moment. So just something to think about. And I do that a lot, and it happens to me a lot, actually. I'll take a lot of screenshots and send them to my team and say, like, look, this girl messaged me back and we haven't talked since like June of 2017. It happens a lot. So if it happens to you, people are kind of ghosting you, please, 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 please know that it's not you. They're just not ready to answer you. So continue to show up, because what would have been worse, for this girl to have heard about this promotion, she goes to message me and I'm no longer a coach. Right? So continue to show up and be in their news feeds, because when the timing is right, the timing is right. So if you truly want to help people, which I don't think you would be here if you didn't, you have to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. It's just nature of our job. Like with the hand raising things, like we just get uncomfortable sometimes with the things that we have to do, but that's okay. Because if you deep down in your soul know that there are people out there who need your help, you're going to do some things that might be uncomfortable for you, because that's how we reach those people, right? We have to become uncomfortable ourselves, put ourselves out there a little bit, so that we can read through the people who don't need our help or don't need our help yet, to find those people that need our help right now. The reality of it is that most people aren't going to say yes the first time they're invited. There's some statistic, it's like people have to see the same thing or hear the same thing or be invited 7 to 10 times or something before they're going to say yes, or before they're even going to say yes, that they're open to hearing more about it. Sure, you're going to get lucky and you're going to get some people here and there that are going to be like, yeah, I'm totally ready, or yeah, sure, tell me about it. But for the most part, it's going to take a little bit more work than that. People are counting on us. People are counting on you to change their life. Think about it this way. By choosing not to invite somebody, you're robbing them of the opportunity to change their life. Stop and think for a second where you might be today if your coach hadn't invited you. And think about, just kind of a estimate. You don't have to know specifically, but like, did your coach invite you more than once? Did your coach invite you twice? Did your coach invite you 5 times? Like, think about where you would be. And so again, I talk about my coach. She's not my actual coach, but she's the one who has, inspired me to sign up. And I can't imagine what my life would look like today if she hadn't gotten vulnerable enough to share her story, her genuine story on social media. Like, what if she didn't have the guts to share that, prior to Beachbody, she couldn't say yes to her kids doing, all these activities. They had to pick one activity they could do because she couldn't afford it. Or she took her kids to Target and she no longer had to tell them they can only pick, one shirt for school shopping instead of whatever. You know what I mean? Like that takes guts. That's vulnerability. But she put herself out there so that I was able to imagine my future in her current situation. And I'm thankful for that, because I don't know, if I didn't join her, maybe would I have maybe joined another team, like another coach? And then that's crazy to think about, is that you wouldn't know your whole team. Like my team is like some of my best friends, and I wouldn't know them if I had signed up with somebody else. Or maybe I wouldn't have signed up at all and I'd be back at teaching, and I know I'd be the most miserable person ever, especially after COVID times. Like, no, thank you. So just think about that. And so think about how you have the opportunity to do that same thing for somebody else. My top leader, she has a 3-month-old baby and she has 2 older boys. And when she had her 2 older boys, she worked in corporate America. She was traveling when they were like 10 to 12 weeks old. She has clips of videos of, nursing around the clock in hotels and airports and gas stations. And, she had to say goodbye to her newborn at 10 weeks to go travel for work. And because of Beachbody, she doesn't have to do that this 3rd time around, and she's home and she doesn't have that stress. And to know that it's, and I post about this sometimes, like, it's not as if it weren't enough to be able to know that I worked hard to be able to make my own dreams come to reality. It's knowing that I played a part in helping her. We didn't know each other. We were complete strangers. We're internet friends, but I put myself out there. My story resonated with her. I invited her multiple times. She started in a free group and it kind of just went from there. So, and that's just one story. Like I have a lot of leaders on my team who have a similar story. So that's all the foundation. Like get your mind right. Like, why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you inviting the person that you're inviting right now? Envision your life, envision your future, have that why at the forefront of your brain every single day. Type it out, print a picture, put it in your bathroom mirror, put it on your dashboard in your car, put it on your refrigerator. Always have that why, because that's what's going to drive you. If my why wasn't as big as it was, and if I didn't have a time restraint on my why, so my why was my kids, and the time restraint was until I gave birth to this first baby, like, I don't know if I would have worked as hard. But when you can have that emotional attachment to your why, I talked about to my team a lot about this. You have to have emotion behind your why. I had 2 coaches last time I did like one-on-ones with my coaches. I had 2 girls who, no, one works for like a law office or something and one's a teacher. And they said to me, I'm not in this for the money. I like my job. I think a lot of people get confused. Like, you can still be in this for the money, even if you love your 9 to 5. I think they look to me because I have a lot of moms, and that's kind of the culture of our team is a lot of people do this full time. And they were like, well, I'm not like that. I don't want money. I just want like accountability. And I had to get real with them for a couple minutes because they want accountability and they want to sort of help people when it's convenient for them, like a hobby coach. And so, but that's not enough to force you to get out of bed an hour early or to force you to stay up late no matter what it takes so that you can get your 20 invites done. It's not going to push you every day when it's uncomfortable and it's awkward and you don't feel like it and you don't think you have time. So I said to them, let me ask you something. I knew they're both moms. They both have 2 kids. I said, do you have any debt? And they were like, yeah. I was like, do you have credit card debt? Yeah. Do you have student loans? Yeah. Do you want, how would it feel to send your kids to college one day knowing that they're not going to get one student loan bill? And it's because of you. Like, can you imagine that? Like, I can't even imagine my oldest is 5 in like 12 years starting to think about college and being able to pay it like in cash. There's a lot of top coaches who have shared that they've done that. Like, how would that feel? Have that emotion attached to it. How would that feel to be able to tell your husband next year, I paid off that credit card bill. Like, we don't have to stress about it anymore. Or you go like all Dave Ramsey and you and your husband are, going together and Beachbody is just a third income that's going to allow you to pay off that mortgage that much faster. You know what I mean? So no matter if you're in this for the money or not, I really feel everybody's why has to come down to money at some level, because I really feel like that's what's going to push you forward. I heard on the National Wake Up Call once when I was a brand new coach, I always hated talking about money. It's like, oh, you owe me $5, but I hate talking. It's just uncomfortable to me. But what she said was, it's not necessarily about the money. It's about what the money represents. And that was a huge light bulb moment. It's not like I'm greedy and I want all the money. It's I want enough money so that I can be home with my boys, but I can also pay my bills and live comfortably. You know what I mean? So like when I think about the money, I see a big fat picture of my 2 boys. Like, it's not about the money. It's about what the money is going to allow me to do. Be home, pay my bills, and not have to still live paycheck to paycheck. Have a fun fund, have a vacation fund, So, okay. So, and I'm off on a tangent. So that's the mindset is the foundation of this building. The mindset, you got to get in the mindset. And then the next level is story. So this is the mechanic stuff. If you're doing these things on a consistent basis, the next thing is just going to be to invite. So let's talk about stories for a second. You want to be sure, and this is probably not earth-shattering news to you, but it might just be helpful and be reminded. And I'm not saying that I do all of this perfectly either. This isn't a perfect world. Every day you'd show your workout clips. You can't invite somebody to your boot camp next week if you're not showing anything about working out on your page or in your stories. It's going to be, it's going to be really awkward and confusing and uncomfortable to invite somebody to your May challenge group when they can look at your page and see nothing about said challenge group. Like, think about if you were to get a message. I know I do it. If I get a message, especially if it's somebody I haven't talked to at all or somebody I haven't talked to in a while, I'm going to go to their page and kind of scope it out, right? I'm going to look at her stories. I'm going to look at her posts. And if she has nothing about health and fitness, I'm not joining her boot camp, So talk about, you're inviting them to your workout boot camp. Talk about that workout boot camp. You want to show products without the label. We still want to do curiosity marketing, but we want to show that we're being a product of the product, so that when you go to help somebody check out and you're getting their information and going to share a cart, you have, for lack of a better word, you have like a better sales pitch, because you can be like, oh, it's that pink drink you see me drinking every day in my stories before my workouts. I literally couldn't live without it. So it's not like I'm asking you to buy something and, that's it. I'm asking you to join me, and you want to get this awesome product because it's going to change your life. Same with Shakeology and the beach bars or whatever. You want to add something of value to people who are listening to your stories. If you're consistently adding to your market from your niche, and you just go and talk about something related to your niche, like I'm, adding moms all the time, and then I just go to talk about mom stuff, I'm automatically creating, talking about something that's of value to that person because we're both moms. Talk to the camera. It's super weird and awkward at first, but just get over it. Think about reality TV. I like to think about like the Kardashians. We feel like we know them because if you watch, reality TV, you'll feel like you know them because you get to see them in their day-to-day life. You get to hear their voice. You get to learn that, if they have any accents, you get to learn like their mannerisms. You feel like you get to know them by the end of the season because they're showing you like the behind the scenes, not just the picture of Kim on, the cover of some magazine, right? So it really is going to allow people to get to know you on a different level than what they can with a standalone picture on your post. And then talk about what we do with coaches, just like number one with our workout clips. If you want to add somebody to your team, if you want to invite them to your next coach sneak peek, but you have nothing about coaching on your page, it's going to feel weird and awkward and uncomfortable to invite them to that coach sneak peek. But if these stories, it's just like your norm. You wake up, you work out, add a quick clip, you're drinking your shake, do a quick story about it. You're doing your nap time hustle or whatever, add a quick story about it. If you're just consistently showing what your everyday life, when you go to invite to a coach sneak peek, it's not going to be anything weird or uncomfortable, right? So mindset, stories, posts. Oh, I'm used to it. Okay, daily posts. So think about who you're attracted to, and I know I have to update this a little bit. Instagram is changing a little bit in terms of, like the 5 things that make you you or whatnot. I have a podcast that I need to listen to, but it's changing a little bit. But I think this is still relevant, and it's always going to be changing. So I guess could be like the core, but you want to definitely, it's in terms of Instagram. Facebook, I think, is a little bit different, but I know Instagram is moving towards a concentrated topic for like your whole page. So not really showing like the 5 things that make you you. It's like your people want more like health and fitness tips. Like that's your whole page is about like health and fitness. It's just different. It's always changing. So I would definitely look into that a little bit, but for the most part, what I'd like to share is, think about who you're attracted to. Are you going to be attracted to somebody who's like vomiting Monet hair products like everywhere? Or are you going to be more attracted to a girl who is showing that she's a mom, is showing that she has a 9-to-5 job. She really likes to, I don't know, knit or something. She likes to go out to eat, and she's also intertwines fitness into her day-to-day life, right? That's gonna be more attractive, and you want to follow that person more likely than if they're just like beach body, beach body, beach body. Your brand is the 5 things that make you you. So then the last is these are the messages. So this is what we're working for. We're laying that foundation of our mindset. We're doing the stories. we're doing our posts. This is like where it all comes to a head. We want to send these private messages. Yes, you can do invites through calls to action on like your stories. So you can use the polls option or the questions thing. But when I think of an invite, I'm thinking of I'm sending you a direct message from me to you, not to like everybody to you. You want to invite this specific person to your party. You want them to know that they are truly, genuinely invited because you're taking the time to slide into their DMs. So, whatever it's going to take for you to get it done, right? Make it a game, make it fun, listen to music, set a timer, set a goal number, have like a friendly competition with your accountability partner. Like you sent 20 yesterday, I'm going to send 21 today or whatever. Like I'm going to listen to 30 minutes of music and whatever I can get done. I'm not doing anything else besides invites and I'm going to try to beat my record, whatever. Just get it done because when you're focusing on the music and the number and the game or whatever, you're going to be less likely to sit there and kind of think twice about what, like I said, about Julie from biology class in high school. Like you don't have time. You have to get these 30 invites done in these 30 minutes. So you're just sending out the invites. Yes, my invites are scripted. Once people reply, that's where they get the genuine full piece of my attention. So these are just some examples that I like to give. Mine is, and then when I did this presentation, I asked my coaches for a couple of examples. Mine tend to be more like the middle one. I put "Hey girl" here just kind of to cover my butt, but I always, always, always change it to their name if I know it, like if I can see from their page. So like, "Hey Sarah, I just wanted to thank you for consistently following my journey." So this would be like if they're watching my stories. "Your support means so much to me. I was wondering if you had any interest in jumping into my next virtual bootcamp." Like really short, sweet, to the point. Like you don't have to vomit any details. But again, if you're showing that this boot camp is a part of your everyday life, it's not weird. You're just, you're doing the things, you're sharing, they're watching you. So of course you're going to invite them. How are you to know if they're going to, if they're interested or not? That's not for you to decide. It's our job to put this opportunity in front of them, and it's their job to whether they take that opportunity or not. I'm going to just fly through the rest of these because I know we're getting a little late. So keep it simple, connect, get to know them. I am one that I like to ask the questions. I know some coaches will send like a Google form to kind of gather this information. I personally have always had the most success with asking the questions, and I don't make it, it doesn't have to take 30 minutes. I just like to kind of take the time. It allows me to get to know them. And it also allows them to see that I'm genuinely interested in their well-being. I'm not going to assume, and I think that she talked about this on the National Wake Up Call this morning. Like, I'm not going to assume that she hasn't worked out in the last 5 years. Maybe I have a girl who's worked out every single day for the past 5 years, but all of a sudden doesn't feel comfortable going to the gym because of COVID. So she's not necessarily going to start with the 21-day fix just because I started with the 21-day fix. Like maybe she's going to start with 80-day obsession. Maybe she's going to go into control freak or something. You know what I mean? Like you just can't assume. So I like to get some information from them. I keep it really short and simple, ask one question at a time. I let them respond and then I relate to what they say. I never want them to feel like they're like on an island by themselves based on one of their answers. So even if I have to stretch the truth a little bit, I'll be like, oh, I know, that happened to me, or I've had a client who that happened to, and this is how I helped her. You always want to turn around their answer with a connection and then insert how this opportunity can be the answer to whatever problem they're having. I want them to feel validated, use feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. What I found was, insert whatever Beachbody's answer is. What are we really selling? It sounds cheesy, but it's the relationship. No, anybody can go to www.teambeachbody.com right now and order the Let's Get Up Challenge Pack. But what they can't get is the relationship with you because they're going to be hooked, paired with another random coach. So you want to, you really want to make that a big selling point for what they're getting. Yeah, they're getting the challenge pack and they're going to be getting their Shakeology, and that's all well and good, but they're going to be getting you too. Right. And if you're the kind of coach that you really feel like your job starts when somebody orders, you're going to give them the best experience possible. Because when you do that, they're going to get the results, the best results possible. And then they're going to want to go on and pay it forward and join your team. So make sure they understand that, you know, they're getting you, which they can't get otherwise. Get intentional about why you're doing this. Why are you excited to help this person? You're not selling something to people. You're extending the invite to something that changed your life. Again, think about where you would be if your coach hadn't invited you. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. And have fun. Like our coach, my up coach, he'll say sometimes like, make sure you're having fun. And sometimes I have to kind of check in with that, because really at the end of the day, this business should be fun. So have fun with your invites, have fun with your page, you know, make it unique to you. And I think that's it. What's the alternative? For me, there was no alternative. Like going back to work, having a 4-month-old was not in the cards. Like it wasn't even an option. So like I didn't even have that cushion. I just never allowed myself to kind of have that. I just put my head down and did what I had to do. So we have a few minutes. Do you guys have any questions? Sorry, my brain didn't work for a couple times there. I swear, like I'm thinking too fast and I can't like, like crap, what did I say?
You do not have to apologize. That was so good. I know that we do need to pop off to switch, right?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay. Guys, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, you can. I had actually, in pursuit of making sure we had great questions to ask, I actually already asked them the questions that they could be asking. So a lot of you guys have actually already figured out some things. I know Kelly and Ashley in our thread earlier, you shared some questions on inviting specifically. If I had a chance to ask a 5-star coach anything about inviting, you guys told me some things. Same thing, Nicolette, Bridget, I think you shared something. Leah, you shared something in our thread. So don't be shy right now, either unmute or drop it in the chat, because y'all had some questions already.
I hope my internet cooperates. Sometimes it goes in, but I'll ask it while it's behaving. Me, I feel like the same people are watching my stories over and over and over again. And I'm inviting them and they're either putting me off, like, oh, well, ask me next month, ask me next month. And I keep asking them, or they're still watching my stories. I'm inviting them and they're not responding. So how would you handle that?
Are you adding people every day? Like, are you adding people to your network every day? Uh-oh, she's frozen. What I would say is make sure you're adding people to your, okay, so make sure
adding, yes, and I'm still getting average.
So then I would make sure that you, I mean, it doesn't have to be, your invites don't have to only be from the people who are watching your stories. They can be people who are looking at your posts, and they can be anybody who follows you. You know what I mean? Like you can start new conversations and new relationships, because when you're in people's inboxes, it's going to tell Facebook and it's going to tell Instagram that you guys are friends and you guys are, you know, talking back and forth. And so, you know, if we were talking, it would say, oh, Brooke, you know, Brooke and Leah are talking. Brooke must want to see Leah's content. Leah must want to see Brooke's content. And then you're going to be more in their feed, and then you can kind of have more things to talk about. So I would say start branching off and creating new relationships. 1000%, while still working on those people who are watching. But yeah, it sounds like you need to have more relationships going and building that rapport with a bigger group of people.
So just going through my followers and
yeah, I'd go through them and I would like their stuff and I would love on them and I'd message them about one of their more recent posts. Hey, I saw you went on vacation.
Okay.
Like
so
it looks
not
so
waiting for them to watch my stuff.
Yeah, branch off.
Cool.
It can be anybody.
Okay, we had a couple more here in the chat. Annie said, how do you decide during connections when it's time to invite? And Ashley kind of asked a little similar, how long do you engage with somebody before sending an invite? Talk to us about that.
So I will message, and this is definitely a common question. I message everybody when they start following me. And then like I just do like a connection message. It does ask a question at the end. If they answer, great. If they don't, that's fine too. If they do, then we start kind of just chatting a little bit, and then I leave it. And then when I'm looking through my story viewers and my post likers, if they are in that group of people, then they're getting a message. They're getting an invite. Like you can't, you're just gonna, it's gonna be, if you're talking to somebody and then the conversation dies, well, then that means you should invite them. Like you don't need to keep it going about like the weather or what you did this weekend, or just invite them, right? If they're watching your stuff, then they're walking into your store. So you have, in my opinion, you have the right to you're in a position where you should be inviting them, because if they're taking the time to watch your stuff and you're being consistent and they know that you're a coach, then it's like, why wouldn't you invite them? So for me, I have the connection, we talk or we don't talk, and then I'm going through my followers. If I had, my only rule for sending an invite is that I've messaged them once with like a connection message. And again, different coaches have different kind of theories. Some coaches don't send those initial connection messages, and that's okay too. You kind of just have to play around and kind of figure out what sticks for your audience and kind of what feels right for you. Like I feel like if I've at least reached out and tried to say hi, and then they're spending the time to watch my stories, then yeah, I'm going to invite them. And then if they say no, it just kind of gives you an opportunity to continue talking to them a little bit about whatever, continue that relationship, and then you can invite them again next month or a couple months.
A question that popped in. Yeah, so good. Annie and everyone, when I worked at Lululemon for a hot second, during seasonal time, fun fact, we were taught really quickly that you are not allowed to give somebody more than 4 seconds. Ooh, Frankie says hi. You're not allowed to give anybody more than 4 seconds of walking into Lululemon without acknowledging their presence and asking how you can serve them. 4 seconds. And if we took more than 4 seconds, y'all, I got pulled aside and I got told that I was taking too long, and I got so nervous doing that because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like bombarding somebody.
Yeah.
But that's what it is in business. And so you have to start treating your social media that they are coming into your store. I love that mentality. Kelly had asked a question in a thread that is so relevant. I hope you can hear me. It says, if you could go back to when you were just starting 6 years ago, tip top, and give yourself some advice in the very beginning, when you're trying to really build this thing and get the momentum going, right? What advice would you give yourself?
I don't know. I have to think about that one. Because I feel like, and I'm probably, part of the exception, but like I had the why, I had the vision. I knew it was, my success was inevitable as long as I stayed the course. I guess, so it's hard for me to say what I would say for myself, but for me to say what a new coach should do, I would tell them to be coachable. Like don't second guess. You were saying, kind of alluding to this on the at the beginning, Brittany, like success leaves clues, right? If you have a coach who has any sort of success, listen to what they're doing, because clearly at least some of what they're doing is working, right? So I have a brand new coach come on. I've created 5 diamonds now. It's like but things are always changing, but for the most part, I have a good feel for, how to get them started and what they should be doing until they kind of feel like they want to branch off and try different strategies and things. But yeah, you have to be coachable. And like I said, I think it says there, yeah, believe in themselves, dig into their PD, focus on themselves, their journey. I often get caught up in like the businessy stuff and let my own journey go. But when it comes down to it, it all comes down to having your own story first.
So good. So good. All right. Well, thank you so much for all of this. I'm gonna hit